made us believe. You kept us off the street, put clothes on our backs, food on the table. When you didn't eat, you made sure we ate. You went to sleep hungry. You sacrificed for us. You the real MVP.
Ball Don't Lie podcast here on Penn State Sports Tonight. The Ball Don't Lie boys. Yours truly, Hunter Pitcoff with Matt Szczypiorski. Don't worry, there may not be basketball going on right now, but there's plenty to talk about.
Amen.
Yep, so we're going to start off with this proposal that the NBA is proposing, a December 22nd start date. I thought it was going to be in January when they were going to start the season, but this isn't official, but it's supposed to be a 72-game season. They want it to end before the Olympics. I don't know if that's because they want players to play or for ratings, maybe a little bit of both. Some of the players, though, are not agreeing with this potential decision since the season ended on October 11th. Even Danny Green went on a podcast and said that LeBron and other vets may not even play to start the season. They might sit out even as much as the first month of the season. But nevertheless, NBA, they want to get back to their normal routine or at least close to it as much as possible. I also heard that NBA's training camp is likely to open on December 1st. So with all this information, a lot of this coming out yesterday, 2 days ago, Matt, how do you take this all in?
Yeah, I just don't think that players are going to be really happy about that quick of a turnaround. Normally they will get around 3 months between the end of the finals to the start of training camp. And in this situation, it wouldn't even be 2 months for teams like the Lakers and Heat. Realistically, I just don't see them starting this season until mid-January because players just won't want to start in December.
Yeah, I think that the players definitely aren't for this, like especially the ones that made deep runs into the playoffs. You know, those 8 teams that didn't even play in the bubble. I mean, I don't think they really care. But so I'm curious to see, like, you know, our players are going to sit out. I don't know. I think that this December 22nd start date, again, doesn't really benefit the players, unfortunately. But this is unfortunately the times that we're in. I think that I saw something that if they started like a month later in January, I think the NBA loses like $600 million.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, every league has lost so much money already, and it's not like I don't think they're ever going to be like, oh, we're going to lose this forever. Like they're going to make that back eventually.
Yeah, you have to think, and also too, it's not like the NBA is struggling while other leagues are thriving. Like everyone's in the same playing field, so you can kind of look at it either way, I guess. But I thought it was interesting. I'm curious to see because I think the NBA, like we've always talked about on this podcast, is probably the most player-friendly league in all of sports, in my opinion. Like they always seem to cater to their players as much as anybody and give them, you know, and take their opinions seriously. So I'm definitely curious to see how this all plays out because I think we're gonna start seeing things moving because the season's gonna only start in a couple months.
Right, and you know, with that December 22nd start date too, it's a really quick turnaround between, you know, the draft is at mid-November. Free agency is probably set to begin right after that. That's not a lot of time for players to sign contracts and then immediately go to training camp, which will be starting December 1st. Yeah, that's not a lot of time for free agency.
Yeah, we're going to start seeing things moving quickly. The NBA draft, we're going to be doing mock drafts on Penn State Sports Tonight, so there's your plug there. But also, too, free agency, like you said, Matt, that's going to be following right after, and then, boom, right back into the season. But something that broke right after we last recorded our podcast last week was Stan Van Gundy now officially being named the new head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans. I guess I can eat my words on this one because I just didn't see it happening, but he had some interesting quotes during his press conference. He said, quote, has very little to do with what you say and has everything to do with what you do on an everyday basis. So no-nonsense coach right here. He wants to establish a culture for this young Pelicans team. Also curious to see how he uses Zion Williamson because he also said that, quote, he's an unbelievable playmaker. It's not limiting him to a position. So let's start off with that because Zion Williamson, of course, is the main attraction to the Pelicans. How do you think he can help his growth?
Well, in Orlando, Van Gundy had a great 4-and-out system with Dwight Howard where he surrounded Howard with 4 guys who could all shoot the ball. They have a somewhat similar roster situation here in New Orleans with Redick, Holiday, and Ingram as great shooters on the outside. I just don't think Zion will be used exactly the way that Howard was, just because the NBA has changed so much in the last 10 years. But I do see similarities even though they don't even play the same position.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one thing because Dwight Howard and Zion Williamson, both two of the most physically dominant players we've seen in the last 20 years or so, definitely from a muscular standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that Zion Williamson, they are different players. I am curious to see how they use him because he's a very unique skill set kind of player, and I like how he underlined his playmaking ability. Now, the Pelicans, they do have Lonzo Ball, who's obviously known for passing. Drew Holiday, not too shabby of a passer either. So they have those guys. But Zion Williamson is the franchise player here. You want to maximize his ability, and you want to give him as much touches as you possibly can.
That's absolutely right. It's going to be interesting to see how they divvy up the possessions between Zion and, of course, Brandon Ingram, too, who had a great season last year, was an all-star for the first time, and had a really breakout season in terms of being able to score.
Yeah, and we saw the Pelicans struggle in the bubble a bit, but the talent's there. Zion Williamson maybe goes back to the drawing board and fixes some of the weaknesses in his game. Brandon Ingram's technically a restricted free agent, but I imagine the Pelicans are giving him that.
Anywhere.
Yeah, they're giving him that max contract, and he deserves every single penny of it. And I don't think they're really going to blow up anything. I don't really see any big trades happening with the Pelicans, so I think they're going to pretty much run it back. I want to know, do you think this could be a playoff team next year?
I do. I think they could definitely compete for that 6 to 8 seed range. I don't think they're going to be anything better than that. They have shown how much better they are when Zion does play, and I'm sure he's going to play as much as he can this season. He'll probably get those rest days that Kawhi Leonard gets, but I do expect big things from the Pelicans this year in terms of taking the next step as a team.
Yeah, it's hard because the West, I think outside of the Timberwolves, I think every single team has a shot to make the playoffs. I would think so, at least a shot. So you kind of wonder, and it's going to be different next year. Like, it's never the same 8 teams that make the playoffs.
Especially with the Warriors getting back to health right now.
Yeah, the Warriors are getting healthy. We saw how the Suns ended their season. The Grizzlies are another team on the up and ups. So there's going to be a lot of competition to get into those 8 spots, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out. So we're going to be looking now, flipping over to the Eastern Conference here. New York Knicks. They said that they are willing to take on cap space for undesirable contracts, maybe one like Chris Paul per se.
Not doing this again.
I just want to ask you, Matt, do you think this is smart for New York? Because they already have a decent amount of draft picks. I believe 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years. So is this basically them already waving the white flag?
I don't think they should be taking on these undesirable contracts, a la the Lakers from 2015, giving Luol Deng a bunch of money. I just don't think they should be doing that. It's not going to help them. It's not going to help them, make any progress in terms of rebuilding, like we talked about last week with the Chris Paul thing. But how undesirable are they thinking here? Because I know a certain 6'9" backup center making $27 million a year down in South Philadelphia with a championship pedigree that they may be attracted to. So. If they're looking for a really undesirable contract, what do I have a deal
Sixers
for you?
we'll give you those undesirable contracts.
Boy, do we have a deal for you.
Yeah. Man. It's bad when the Sixers would have to give up more assets just to get rid of Al Horford.
Amen.
The man that, of course, Matt is alluding to here, that probably would be the biggest hater of this Ball Don't Lie podcast.
Yep.
Him and Russell Westbrook.
Good.
Throwing subtweets at us, but Westbrook's not Colin Coward, so he doesn't have to worry about this. Al Horford, though, I don't think people talk about him on a national stage like that. So
they shouldn't.
Yeah, as they probably shouldn't. But yeah, I think this is interesting from the Knicks. I mean, they're basically just being like, hey, you have problems, we'll take those problems. So I don't really understand why teams do this, unless you're getting really valuable assets in return for taking on that bad contract. But I don't know, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's why are you doing this? You're literally just making someone else's problems your problems.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like the Browns trading for Brock Osweiler for that $72 million contract. They were like, yeah, we'll eat that for no reason.
It doesn't typically work out.
No, it's not going to work out at all. So I don't understand this move by the Knicks, much like any other move they've made in the last 20 years. So
that's fair. But now we're looking at a team doing the complete opposite, and that is the Dallas Mavericks. They're eyeing win-now moves. Everybody but Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis is on the table for that team. Do you like this aggressive mentality?
I do, because I think they're really close to competing, and I think they know that. And they understand how close they are. They're just a few pieces away, maybe one even big piece away from really ascending this team from where they were last year as a 7 seed to maybe even the top 4 in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how great Luka Doncic was in that playoff series against the Clippers. I mean, I'd go as far as to say he was the best player in that series. I mean, obviously the Mavericks didn't get the job done, but they went to 6 games, I believe. I think they realistically could have went to 7 if a certain player didn't get thrown out in game 1. But and Kristaps Porzingis also looked great too. It was really interesting because a lot of players, when they enter the league, you want them to put on weight, right? Because you want them to get bigger, stronger, physical. Porzingis did that, and he said it actually made him worse. It made him more sluggish. He wasn't as explosive as he was. So he said he actually lost a lot of that weight during the break that the NBA had, and he looked a lot better as a result. And also, too, he is coming back from a serious Achilles injury. But if we are able to see that Kristaps Porzingis for a duration of a season, this Mavericks team, they have their foundation, in my opinion, to win a championship.
Oh, absolutely, and I think, like I said before, they're really close. The older that Luka gets, the better they're going to get too. They're one decent piece away from being a legit scary contender as long as they can stay healthy, which has been a problem for Porzingis in his career so far. And I personally would love to see Bradley Beal on this team if they're in terms of aggressiveness.
Man, that'd be the aggressive move that I think teams would be looking for. But I'm going to make a little bit of a bold prediction here. A little bit. It's not super bold. I think that the Dallas Mavericks, and I don't know if I'm saying it now, but I have to see also what happens. I think they'll be a top 3 seed in the West next year.
Okay.
I think they're going to make them. I think there's some moves to be made on that team.
Yeah, they definitely need to make a move to be a top 3 team because who's in the top 3 this year? Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets?
Yeah. I think they'll bump out the Clippers. I don't think they're going to be as good.
Interesting. Okay.
I think the Lakers, I'm definitely buying high on the Denver Nuggets because I think they're a legit team.
And who was 4 and 5? The Rockets and Thunder, right?
Yep.
Utah was 6.
I think Thunder probably don't make the playoffs. I think they're going to blow that up.
Rockets, they stink. They don't have a center.
And 6th seed was the Jazz.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Mavericks in the top 4 for sure. I don't know about top 3 because I'm not ready to sell on the Clippers yet.
I don't know. I think the Clippers have some work to do. I think that their team is a little bit beat up right now. Hey, man, maybe they make those moves and can kind of shut the Mavericks up. But I think Luka Doncic. I believe he's currently the odds favorite to win MVP.
Wow.
And he may do it this year. He is. We have seen. LeBron is maybe the only other young player at this stage who has competed at the level Luka has.
Yeah, I mean, if Luka plays like he did in that playoff series, no question he'll win MVP.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a problem next year for opposing defenses. But last but not least, the guy who was maybe starting some problems was Pat Riley. He said the Lakers' championship win should have an asterisk next to it after the Heat lost Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic for parts of the series. However, though, he did clarify those statements. He said the Lakers were, quote, the better team. But, I don't know, do you think there's a bit of jealousy here?
You think?
Yeah. I just want to make sure, because I'm a Laker fan. I don't want to come off biased.
Injuries happen all the time in sports, and it's no different in basketball. By his logic, you could put an asterisk next to the Raptors championship last year because of KD and Klay being out. You could put an asterisk next to the Warriors 2015 championship because LeBron didn't have Kyrie or Kevin Love in that series. You can go down the list of pretty much any champion and probably put an asterisk next to half of them by his logic. Shut up, Boomer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think that's actually what he said. He goes, everyone has an asterisk. I'm like, well, then it's not really an asterisk,
So then
is
there's
it?
no asterisk.
So there's not, yeah. So we're just having an issue with that little star sign that it's currently the debate right now. But, yeah, Pat Riley, he said this, though, like a couple days ago. It wasn't like it was right after the loss. He's upset, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But, he's had time to think this over. I was like, come on, man. Look, and I give the Heat credit. They went further than almost anybody else thought they would, and they had a terrific season. For them, I think that he should just be enjoying that and, being excited for what's to come.
Yeah, and, if the Heat had won that championship, you would put an asterisk next to it because the Lakers didn't have Avery Bradley.
Oh, man, you pulled the Avery Bradley card.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You could put an asterisk next to every championship.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I was like, what are you doing, Pat Riley? You've been around long enough to know this. But anyway, though, it's going to wrap up our Around the Association. Next up, we're going to be giving our Players of the Week. Again, there's no games being played, so we kind of just came out with stuff out the hat and tried to come up with some players to, spark some conversation. So, Matt, I'll let you go first.
All right, so the topic of my 3 players is going to be players who deserve better.
Okay.
My first player is Blake Griffin. This poor guy signed a max contract extension with the Clippers and then got shipped off at the trade deadline of the same season to an organization in Detroit with absolutely no sense of direction. While Griffin has only improved his play over recent seasons, developing an efficient three-point shot, he cannot seem to stay healthy as he missed the final half of the season after undergoing knee surgery, his second in 9 months. Detroit, please trade him.
Maybe that's the undesirable contract the Knicks get, Blake Griffin.
Oh, no, that would suck too.
Yeah, I don't know, it wouldn't be much better. I'd say better because you're in a better city than Detroit, but
more fans in the stands.
More fans in the stands. I think they'd like Blake Griffin a lot, but I think from a basketball standpoint, he'd be quite frustrated again.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's a really good name because I've actually seen that, teams, the Pistons are trying to shop him, and they're trying to get something for him.
Good.
I think the only problem is, for one, the injuries. He unfortunately just hasn't been as healthy, but he has that huge contract that at this point he's probably not worth the amount of money he's being paid.
It's hard to move.
But he's still
contract.
a very, very good player, and I think on the right team he could definitely be a very valuable asset.
I agree.
So that was a nice name. Now I got another interesting one coming up too. The Tsunami Poppy himself, Kelly Oubre.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't come up with that nickname, but
good.
He
I
did.
Sure hope not.
Yeah, no, I would never call a grown man Poppy, but so that is his own self-proclaimed nickname. I just want to say it because where did he even come up with this from? Dwight Howard give him that one, but but no. Anyways, though, Kelly Oubre missed a lot of time in the bubble for the Phoenix Suns, but had a really good season for them. I heard there's some teams that are gonna want him, but I don't know. He was pretty good. Do you think the Suns should keep him, or do you think you kind of field offers for him?
No, I think the Suns should keep him. They definitely got to run back whatever they had in that bubble going 8-0. They need to run it back with whatever they had going on there.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because he wasn't technically there for that 8-0 run, but I agree with you, Matt. He's a pretty valuable player.
He's not going to hurt the team.
No, he was good. He was their starting 4, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he fits that offense really nicely there in Phoenix. So I think that they should definitely keep him. But I know there's some teams that are trying to field offers for him. I mean, yeah, if you pull like a crazy deal that the Suns can't refuse, I think, yeah, you can trade him. Mm-hmm. But I think for the most part, I'd definitely be really stingy because I think he's definitely, has value and can be a valuable asset to Phoenix who wants to probably make the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I could see him maybe being a deadline move if the Suns are struggling, but I think they at least have to let him play out in the first half of the season.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring his name up because, I like to go with my bag a little bit for these picks. But next up, Matt, who is on your list?
De'Aaron Fox from the Sacramento Kings.
Okay.
Pretty much anyone good who has played in Sacramento since 2002, I feel bad for. Fox averaged 21 points per game for a bad Kings team and was the only guy worth anything on the team for the entire year. Luke Walton is probably tearing this team apart from the inside out, and I hope Fox's career doesn't suffer from it. He is just 21, so I have false hope that the Kings can surround him with talent. Who am I kidding? Just trade the poor guy.
He's really 21?
Yeah.
Really?
I think so. Let's fact check myself right now.
He's probably close to that.
Ooh, 22. So
22,
close.
okay.
He just turned 22.
All right, yeah, because I remember I thought he was like a year, his like recruiting class was like a year before I graduated. So I was like 21. Wow, he's super young.
Right.
But 22, that's still really young. I'm a big De'Aaron Fox guy. This guy, he has so much heart. Like when you watch him play, which is great for the Kings, but unfortunately it's just not enough because the rest of that team doesn't. But De'Aaron Fox, yeah, he's an interesting guy because he's going to be up for a huge contract extension this offseason. I think the Kings probably give it to him. He'll probably get either the max or really close to it. If I'm him, I'm demanding the max or trade me. But he's a really talented player, has really improved his three-point shot, become a much better playmaker, and may be the fastest player with the ball in his hands in the NBA.
He is super quick. I'd probably equate his speed to like Russell Westbrook.
Yeah. He's really aggressive too. He attacks the rim with purpose. Did a much better job getting to the free throw line. Also got like bigger. So that's good. He's a really talented player, and yeah, he's kind of in a bad situation in Sacramento.
Yeah, they're like the Cleveland Browns of the NBA.
Pretty
That's
much.
the second time I brought up the Browns in this podcast.
Yeah, what was the first time?
Brock Osweiler.
Yes, Brock Osweiler made a cameo in the Ball Don't Lie podcast. I did not have that on the bingo board. But yeah, so yeah, okay. Next on my list is a guy who's not in the NBA yet, but will be, and that's LaMelo Ball.
Okay.
He's expected to be the number 1 pick to the Timberwolves. They have Karl Anthony Towns there. They have D'Angelo Russell there. They had guys like Malik Beasley play pretty well for them. So I want to know, would that be the right pick for them?
I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I said no, but
We did?
I
We
have
did.
changed my course of action.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going to say yes because of the points that you brought up. I think D'Lo, and I was thinking of D'Lo as like primarily a point guard, but I think you brought up a good point where he probably plays better as a shooting guard. Honestly, I think D'Lo at 2 and LaMelo Ball at the 1, or even reversed. I think they would actually pair pretty well together.
I mean, the defense is going to be horrendous.
Well, we're not talking about defense,
But
Hunter.
but they have Karl Anthony Towns too, so like I think they're going all out on defense.
Yeah.
They don't care. But
Yeah.
I think offensively, I look at a team like the Portland Trailblazers with guards like Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum in the backcourt. The Brooklyn Nets, they got Karis LeVert. They have Spencer Dinwiddie, of course, Kyrie Irving,
Right.
and of course D'Angelo Russell was there. I feel like we're starting to see a trend of being able to have a successful offense with 2 ball-dominant players, but they also have to have the ability to both facilitate and play off the ball. And I think LaMelo Ball still has to improve in that, but D'Angelo Russell can do that very, very well.
Right.
Can play either guard spot. So I think that they should take him.
I agree with that, and I think they do have a good young nucleus there. I also think Jarrett Culver, their rookie from last year from
it's
Texas
true.
Tech, I think he's probably gonna wow, what's the word I'm looking for? Blossom, I guess.
Okay.
Take that next step next year. Even if it's like coming off the bench, I do think he's a good player.
Yeah, and Jared Culver, too, a very strong defensive player. That's
Mhm.
kind of what his niche was at Texas Tech. He's kind of been that guy in Minnesota, too.
The
So
only
I
one.
think he's the only one. So I think his role is definitely going to be to kind of go out there and guard the best player on the perimeter every given night and just hope that LaMelo Ball and D'Angelo Russell do something.
Yeah, gotta score some points.
Yeah, they go do the point thing. He'll do the defense thing.
Mhm.
That's basketball. But also, last but not least, Matt, who is on your list?
You really think I was gonna go this long without roping in the Sixers?
You already did this
No,
Al Horford,
that's just a normal thing. All right, Ben Simmons.
of
Mr.
course.
Ben Simmons deserves better from everyone, social media especially, but the Sixers organization too, as they've surrounded him with players that just do not fit his play style, Al Horford and Tobias Harris. And don't give me that look, Hunter. I'm not talking about Joel Embiid. Instead of everyone focusing on what he can't do, let's focus on everything else he does at an elite level on a basketball floor. You want me to name those things, Hunter? Glad you asked. Passing, finding the open guy, fast breaks, driving to the basket, perimeter defense, steals, defending the other team's best player, and he's really good at video games.
Oh man, that last one's pretty key. That's definitely gonna translate the wins on the basketball court. But look, I'm not a Ben Simmons hater. I think he's very good.
Yeah.
I don't hate on him as much as other people do. Like obviously, you always address the elephant in the room. He can't shoot, and it's frustrating that he hasn't really improved his shot. Don't get me wrong. Like you're just like, what are you doing in the gym? Do you just dunk every possession for 3 hours? But like, yeah, he's probably one of the most physically gifted players. People forget, like you said, Matt, how athletic he is. I mean, he's 6'10".
People forget.
He's
People
6'10"
forget.
and can just run and can guard guys. Pretty much can. I think at a pinch guard all 5 positions, which there's only a handful of players that can really do that at an
Absolutely.
elite level. He did make all defense this year, right?
He was first team all defense. Yeah,
He deserved it. I would
Heck
have
yeah.
voted for him. But yeah, Ben Simmons is a terrific player. I'm not someone who always hates on him. In fact, when I say that the Sixers, if they should blow it up, I think Ben Simmons is the guy you keep over Embiid. Even though I think Embiid's a slightly better player, I think Ben Simmons, those ceilings a little higher, and he's a little more durable. But I think Ben Simmons is a really good player. I'm not really going to argue you off this one.
Yeah.
You brought up the right Sixer player.
Yeah. if that man gets a jump shot, watch out.
Yeah, it's a big if, though. Last but not least on my list is a player kind of similar in terms of a defensive perspective or a guy who can do a little bit of everything. And that's Draymond Green. He had a really, really bad season, right? And
Yeah,
people were
awful.
calling him overrated. He's washed, blah, blah, blah. But the Warriors are going to be a lot better. Draymond Green, I think, is going to be a little more gauged because he knows that, okay, now we have a chance to win some basketball games again. How do you think he's going to look this season, and what contributions can he make to the Warriors?
Well, I think he's certainly going to be better than he was last year because it's going to be hard for him to be worse. I do think he's going to have a much better time, though, because he's not going to be the main guy on offense, which he was with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson out this year. Even with D'Angelo Russell there, they were asking Draymond Green to do a lot. And then once Russell got traded, Draymond Green was like, I'm the only guy left. And I think in any situation where Draymond Green is your best player on the floor, it's probably not a good situation.
I completely forgot D'Angelo Russell was on the Warriors till you brought it up.
So did we all.
Yes.
Pepperidge Farm members, though.
Yeah, Pepperidge Farms remembers. Oh, man, good reference right there.
Thank
Draymond Green, like you said, Matt, I think you illustrated it pretty well. He was the guy on offense. I think he thrives more when he doesn't have to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like we see, everyone wants to compare him, but Dennis Rodman, not the same player, but I think he thrives because he just makes winning plays.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't he's willing to sacrifice his shots and do all the other little things that makes the team great. And he's a big reason why the Warriors were as good as they were during their championship runs,
Mm-hmm.
even though he wasn't the go-to guy on offense.
Yeah, he's a great team player because he's a great defender and he's a great passer for as big as he is.
Yeah, so that was the guy who I wanted to bring up because I think the Warriors could be pretty interesting next year. But that is going to wrap up our Players of the Week here. Now we're going to talk about another player who almost surely is going to get traded, and that is Victor Oladipo for the Indiana Pacers. He's in his final year of his deal. He's owed $21 million next season before he hits unrestricted free agency. Let's start off with the Pacers here. Does he begin the year a Pacer?
I don't think he starts the year as a Pacer, and I think they should probably focus on, finding the best deal for them to get him out of there because it's clear that he doesn't want to be there, even though there may have been some, they kind of pulled back on those comments he originally made, but I don't think he wants to be there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he hasn't publicly said anything bad, so I don't think it's going to get ugly in that sense, though. But if his name starts swirling around, I don't think he's going to really appreciate it if they're not being upfront honest with him. And that could definitely almost always carry over into the locker room and be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But now I want to flip it over here. How aggressive do you think the Pacers are going to be dealing? Are they just looking to get rid of him to get something in return? Or do you think they really take their time and field some offers here?
Well, I don't think they're going to trade him just for the sake of trading him. I think they're going to trade him if he has value. So that might play into the season. It might have to be like a few games or maybe even a couple months before they trade him, maybe trade him at the deadline. But I do think that they should eventually trade him, but I don't think they should just trade him to trade him.
I agree with you. And that's why I'm not 100% sold on him being gone before the season starts, only because, too, it's such a quick turnaround. I mean, the season just ended.
Right.
So you have to really field some offers here, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. But also want to know here, what should the Pacers be prioritizing in terms of capital to get for him? Should they be prioritizing more picks or adding pieces?
Well, I would say they should focus more, maybe not what they should do, but I think they will focus more on players just because I think they're in win-now mode. Maybe they shouldn't be. Maybe they should. It's probably up for debate there. But I just think they should get a decent player or two in return and maybe a late first-rounder or a protected pick. But I think the Pacers are trying to win now, as I said, so they will prioritize players.
Yeah, I agree with you because, like you said, Matt, this team is pretty close to getting over the hump potentially. I think Victor Oladipo, his stock may be lower than it normally would be, but I think teams do covet him and they're willing to give up pieces. Plus, $21 million, that's pretty affordable for him, but it's also enough where you'd almost have to give up something to get him because you have to match the salaries.
Right, yeah, you're going to have to give up a hefty chunk of, just because, like you said, like salaries and there's no scrubs being paid that kind of salary. It's not like it's 2016 and the cap just went up, so, and DeMar Carroll's getting $20 million a year.
DeMar Carroll, Jesus Christ. But let's talk about a team here who may be going after him. I heard one team that has been pretty aggressive for him for a long time, and as the Miami Heat. Do you think they throw a flyer at VO and try to make an addition here to reach the NBA Finals again?
Is Oladipo really a better option than the guys they have at this position? I mean, I think Dragic, Hero, Robinson, all those guys are better fits with that team than Oladipo is at this stage of his career, especially since you don't know all you're going to get from Tyler Hero quite yet because he's so young. Oh, my God, do we have breaking news?
We have a Woj Bomb.
Oh, my God, hold on. I've been waiting for this moment.
It's about the Sixers.
No.
Did you see it?
Yes, I did.
All right, Matt. How about you tell the world what it is?
Okay, so it says the 76ers are in advanced talks on a deal to hire Daryl Morey to oversee franchise's basketball operations. Goodbye, Elton Brand.
Wow.
Let's go. Oh, my God. I got to find that video. Hold on. For the Woj Bomb.
Oh.
Woj Bomb.
Oh, man.
Let's go.
Wow, I'm glad we finally got one. We missed the Van Gundy one, but I think we got one maybe a little bit bigger here, especially because this one hits home for you. But I just want to know, Matt, this is initial raw reactions here, not pre-planned talk. That's what we do on Ball Don't Lie. How do you feel about this move?
Oh, my God. I love it, Hunter. I've been wanting Daryl Morey since he got fired or stepped down from the Rockets. I think I said he did a pretty good job with the Rockets last week. I might have whatever bad things I said about him last week, just disregard those. He did a great job in Houston in the beginning, trading for James Harden. Oh, yes. Anybody that's not Elton Brand. That's all I wanted. I wonder who's going to get for Al Horford. What if he gets James Harden for Al Horford? Oh, my goodness.
I think, though, that this may be the end of the road for Joel Embiid. We know Daryl Morey doesn't like centers. He doesn't like his
Oh, no,
center.
that's Mike D'Antoni doesn't like centers.
No, I think that's Daryl Morey. He's the one pulling the strings.
Hunter, why would you say that?
You know it's true. You know it's true. Ben Simmons is going to be shooting 23s a game now.
Whoa, not 20. Let's start him off with, 2 or 3.
Nah, it's going to be 20.
Listen, Daryl Morey's not coaching the team. He's just getting the team together.
Yeah, but he has a big part of the small ball lineup, and I'm excited, though. I think that the Sixers needed a new rebranding. I'm sure Doc Rivers is probably approved this hiring. I don't think they would just throw this together.
No.
Maybe that's why he didn't take the Houston job, because he knew that Daryl Morey was going to be leaving, potentially. That's pretty interesting. This is pretty big news right
What
here.
a Woj Bomb, man.
What? Yeah.
I wasn't even looking at my phone. Good job,
I was.
Hunter.
It just kind of popped up, and I just started looking at you like.
I was like, what did
you
I say
know about this?
I was like, what did he say about Tyler Hero?
Yeah.
Man.
Tyler Hero. No, I don't even know how to go with that. But all right, well, it's pretty exciting for you.
Yes.
But let's get back down to earth here a little bit.
What were we even talking about?
Yeah, let's talk about talk about the Miami Heat here, a team that actually didn't disappoint in the playoffs.
Hunter. I'm aware of how much we sucked, okay? You know who played well, though? Shake Milton.
Shake and bake.
Joel Embiid played really well in those playoffs.
Yeah.
He was just out there by himself with Shake. Tobias Harris could not hit a mid-range jump shot to save his damn life.
Maybe not. But, all right. Well, looking at the Miami Heat here, I'm very curious to see. I agree with you, because I heard that Tyler Hero, they're not trading him for Victor Oladipo.
Mm-hmm.
He is off the table. I would imagine, I don't even know if they trade Duncan Robinson, but if they're willing to give up, if they're able to give up basically a bag of rocks for Oladipo and that's all it takes, why not make that move? But I agree with you. I wouldn't trade some of the assets that have worked and have been durable, because Oladipo has been a little bit injury-plagued these last couple of years, to get a guy in Oladipo.
Yeah, I might consider Goran Dragic in that trade, but then the question becomes, does Oladipo even fit better in that offense than Dragic did?
Yeah, that's a good point. But now let's look at another team here. A team that people are saying don't count out is the Milwaukee Bucks. Do you think they need to make a move like this to get over the hump?
I think the Bucks definitely do need to make a move, but I don't know if this is the one. Oladipo is good and would certainly make them better in their starting rotation on paper, but would that translate to better success on the court? I'm not sold.
Yeah, I guess it depends how good Oladipo is. If he's going to be
And he wasn't that good this past year.
He was not that good. I think he only averaged 13-ish points a game. He was not the same
And his shooting
player.
was really off.
And shooting was really off, and that's why I think the Pacers are moving on from him, most likely. But, yeah, I think the Bucks, I would be more willing to make this move than if I was the Heat, personally. I think for the right price, I would make this move, because I think he would instantly become the best player in that backcourt. I mean, he's better than Wesley Matthews and Eric Bledsoe.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that, and defensively, he's really good. He's a good facilitator. He's very good off the bounce. I think they can use another guy like that. I like this move more for Milwaukee than I do for Miami.
Yeah, I still think if I was Milwaukee, I would look into Chris Paul first before going into Victor Oladipo.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think that he definitely. I would agree with the Chris Paul thing. First off, but I think Oladipo, he's cheaper, and he would be not as valuable to. What was I gonna say? Victor Oladipo's cheaper, and I don't think it'd take as much to get him.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Okay, but let's talk about a team here that sparked some controversy last week, maybe. and the Ball Don't Lie podcast. But we're going to be replacing Chris Paul here with a younger and cheaper Victor Oladipo. And at this point, it's pretty much the Knicks just going after everybody. That's how it's always been with a big market team such as them. But do you think this move actually makes sense for them?
Sure doesn't. The Knicks shouldn't trade for a high-profile player whose contract is up after this season, as the likeliness of him re-signing there would be fairly low, I'd imagine. Keep rebuilding with guys that are going to be there for a while.
Yeah, unless they have, like, an intention. All right, I'll say this. I think I'm not as sold on trading for Oladipo as I am for Chris Paul, because I think Chris Paul's a better player, and I think that he's more of a culture changer. But here's the thing. The Knicks signed Marcus Morris last offseason and flipped him for a first-round pick. If Victor Oladipo, they make a move for him, they buy him low, don't have to give up that much to get him. Maybe you get off some bad contracts that you don't like. Right? Let's say he's phenomenal. Like, he scores a ton of points, looks really good, keys to the offense, and then they're able to flip him for more assets than they originally got him for. You're telling me that? I think that in that case, it'd be worth it if you're the Knicks.
That's a good point, Hunter, and it could work. But then the thing is, if Victor Oladipo really rises his stock that much, is balling out that much, what's the Knicks' record at that point? Like, are they out of the contention for a top lottery pick then?
I don't think so. I mean, Victor Oladipo's good, but I don't think he like changes the course of your franchise.
Mm-hmm.
If you're garbage, you're gonna be garbage with Oladipo. He'll help you win some games.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll put fans in the seats, although there's not gonna be a whole lot to begin with. But I think in that, I mean, it depends what you have to give up for him. You're not going to give up any huge assets for him. I don't think any teams have to give up, like, an arm and a leg to get Victor Oladipo. But if you're the Knicks, why not?
Yeah, I mean, if they're giving up Julius Randle, then yeah. But if they're giving up, like, R.J. Barrett or Kevin Knox or Mitchell Robinson or one of those young guys, I'd say no.
Yeah, I don't think they would have to give up anyone like that. Maybe Kevin Knox. I'm not really even a Kevin Knox guy anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of stinks, but...
Yeah, so I'd feel like, go ahead, take him.
Yeah.
You want Frankie Smokes? You can take Frankie Smokes.
Oh,
the French Prince of Bel-Air. I'm a man of many nicknames, but not a whole lot of skill.
No, definitely not. I still don't even know how to say his last
I
name.
think it's Niakina.
Yeah, no.
But
no
yeah, the French lick. Not Larry Bird somewhere like turning over like what? Like no, but all right. But jokes aside, I think Oladipo, it'd be easier to get him than Chris Paul. You'd have to be I think if you trade for Chris Paul, you're trying to win some more games. But I think Oladipo, maybe you are too, but I think it's a little more risk-free, high-reward kind of thing. So I'd say why not, personally. But we're going to look at the two LA teams that, maybe they're going to try to retool their rosters to go after a championship. Let's start off with the Lakers here. They're rumored that maybe they have a move or two in them. They can trade some contracts and get Victor Oladipo. Do you think they'd make a move for him, and do you even think they have enough to get him?
I think this move would feel like extremely forced to me. Sure, Oladipo would probably have a great season playing alongside LeBron and AD as kind of the forgotten third guy in that offense. But I just don't think it's a move the Lakers need to make necessarily. KCP had a great finals and Western Conference Finals. Danny Green, while he didn't play well last year, he's still, Danny Green. He maybe bounce back year. Alex Caruso's shown you a lot. Even Avery Bradley deserves a chance to run it back. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay, that's interesting. So I'll bring up a hypothetical here that maybe changes things. Let's say that Rajon Rondo and KCP, two guys that opted out, they did not accept their player option. They are currently free agents. And when you win a championship and play well in that run, your stock is going to go up in the free agency market because it's like, what have you done for me lately? And Rondo and KCP were both very good players for the Lakers in that finals and in the playoffs in general. Let's say the Lakers can't afford either of those guys. They lose two key players at the guard position. Avery Bradley, maybe he leaves too. Maybe he opts in. I'm hearing he actually may stay. But now you have two open spots there. And like you said, Matt, Danny Green wasn't great. He's obviously, we know what we get. You know what you get out of him. But if you can trade Danny Green for Victor Oladipo, not straight up. I mean, that's something else would probably get thrown in there. But say, like, I don't know, Danny Green, like Quinn Cook, and, like, I don't know, like a draft pick. You wouldn't do that if you were the Lakers?
I think I would at that point because if you've lost KCP and Rondo, which, as you said, is probably pretty probable at this
Could
point,
happen, yeah.
I think I would definitely do that just because Oladipo is also younger than Danny Green.
Yes.
And while he only has 1 year left on his deal, I think I'd still do it.
Yeah, even if, like, let's say the Lakers don't even re-sign him, it may be worth it because the Lakers get off of a lot of their contracts after this following season.
Yeah.
So they can kind of restart, not rebuild, but kind of like retool their roster
Right.
how they would like it to look. And I think Oladipo, like you said, Matt, just flat out, he's a better player than Danny Green.
Yeah.
And he brings that defense that Danny Green does, not as big as Danny Green, but I believe he made All-NBA defense before Victor Oladipo,
Yeah.
or he's been really close to it, but also gives you that offensive firepower and can both score and make plays for others and can play either guard spot. So I think he'd play well next to LeBron. We've seen scoring guards like a Dwayne Wade. He's not as good as these guys, but Dwayne Wade and Kyrie Irving play really well with LeBron. So I couldn't see why Oladipo couldn't slant that role either. Plus, it's a little more clear that he'd be the third guy there.
Yeah, he would be the third clear guy, as I said, and as we both brought up. Good scoring guards that have played with LeBron have had tremendous success. So there's no reason to think that he wouldn't. It's just a matter of what the Lakers would give up and who we'd be playing with and who would be sharing time with in the backcourt.
Yeah, I don't know. I am on the side of I think the Lakers are going to make some type of move because I always say that the best teams are the most aggressive teams. You see the Warriors, they obviously they were great. They signed Kevin Durant. Then they trade for D'Angelo Russell. They trade for Andrew Wiggins. They make these aggressive moves. You see, even in the NFL, the Ravens are a great team, but they still are making moves to try to get even better. I always think the teams that are most aggressive are the teams that are typically the best in sports. That's why you can argue a team like the Knicks, they aren't great because they've kind of just stayed pat and just been garbage. But so I think that and sometimes it burns you, but you got to try to go for it. The Lakers, LeBron is entering another year. I expect him to be great again based on what we saw last time, but you do have to make sure that you're trying to refresh this roster as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, and that's important too, Hunter. It's important that you brought up that you can't just stay pat all the time, even if you did just win a championship, because the league changes from year to year, and guys, they go through slumps, and they get better, and they get worse. And, you can't just keep expecting that whatever worked last year to work the next year too. So that's a good point you bring up.
Yeah. So I think it's something to keep in mind. Not many people know more about the Lakers than me.
Yeah.
But let's look at the other team, the stinky Clippers team. No shade. Do you think they try to rearrange the furniture here and make a change?
This is interesting. I think the Clippers could certainly get a more consistent scorer at the position in front of Lou Williams, as Landry Shamet has been inconsistent for the Clippers. I could see the Clippers doing this deal and including Shamet in the deal, but I'm not sure they'd commit to Oladipo for anything more than this year.
I don't think so either. The Clippers, I think, have to go all in this year because Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are in their final years of their deal. Or I think they can opt out of their deals.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So this is actually their year that last year it should have been, but and they didn't make the moves. They just didn't execute it well enough. But they got to go all in this year. I mean, this is why you get rid of a great coach in Doc Rivers, who's won more games as a Clippers head coach than any other head coach has for that organization. But I think you do make this move if you're the Clippers. I don't think you're going to give up anybody that I'm afraid to give up if I'm them, because Kawhi's not going to be in that deal. Paul George is not going to be in that deal. But you're going to give up really anyone else on that team. I'd be like, all right.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Even Patrick Beverly, I'd probably give up too.
So would I. But yeah, all right, yeah. So I guess we're on the same page there. But another team I brought up that I think is pretty interesting is the Atlanta Hawks. Now, I think his defense and playmaking ability complements Trae Young pretty nicely. And the reason why I think that, obviously defense, Trae Young is garbage on defense. He had, I believe, the second highest offensive rating in the NBA and the worst defensive rating. You talk about polar opposites, that is Trae Young. But I think an issue that the Hawks have, and as great as he is that he carries almost too much of the load. I think he has to do too much out there, and maybe that's why he's compromised on defense potentially. But having another really good guard in Victor Oladipo that can do a little bit of everything, I think would help Trae Young a ton. It'd make the Hawks a better team, and I think it would make him a more efficient player too, because he wouldn't have to carry so much of the burden. Plus, they have a ton of cap space to extend him in the offseason. I think they have one of the highest cap salary situations in the NBA right now. So, want to know, Matt, what do you think about that? I know that one's a little out of left field.
No, this is what the people were waiting for, Hunter. And by the people, I mean me. I think this is the perfect move for the Hawks. His defense immediately makes them better, as you alluded to. And as you mentioned, the Hawks have plenty of cap room to extend him. I think his play style would mesh so nicely with Trae Young. This is the ideal move for all sides involved, as I'm sure the Pacers would get a nice young guy in return, like Kevin Huerter, who feels like the most stereotypical Indiana Pacer of all time.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a white guy who can shoot threes.
Yes.
What more do you want if you're an Indiana guy?
What more you want? Yeah, I think Kevin Huerter is kind of overrated in my opinion. You don't?
No, I mean,
People were like hyping him up like he's next Klay Thompson.
No, he's
stop.
certainly not. Yeah, he's certainly not.
Stop.
And you know, if he was the Klay Thompson, the Hawks would have won more than 20 games this year.
You know what I mean? Like, think about it. They took 2 wing guys, DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish, in the draft. So I feel like, and traded up for DeAndre Hunter. So I can't imagine they're that confident in Kevin Huerter. And if you're getting Victor Oladipo in return, I'll take it. And the Pacers, you have good guards there, so you can roll the dice on the guy Huerter and see what happens.
Exactly.
So I think that move, no one's talking about it, but I don't see why not, because I think that'd be a pretty nice move. But this is nothing to do with basketball, but I'm going to bring it up because it segues nicely into our next All-NBA team here, so that's a little bit of a teaser.
Okay.
The Packers are interested in getting Will Fuller.
Yeah, I'm reading that too. It says might finally get Rodgers a first-round receiver. That's pretty funny.
That's ouch.
That'd be good. I just don't know if his muscles will hold up there in that cold weather.
Ooh, that's a good point. Will Fuller's been playing in a stadium and he still gets hurt.
Yeah.
But he's actually low-key had a really good year for Houston.
He has. He's been like their only good offensive player besides Watson, of course.
Yeah, but and Deshaun Watson, he's gonna be like was it Will Smith when he walks in the house and or is it Carlton?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where he walks in the house and no one's there.
No, it's Will Smith.
It is Will Smith.
Yeah,
everyone moves out. He's like looking around. All right, yeah. I remember that scene.
And then Randall Cobb just peeks around the corner.
Yeah. Randall Cobb, it's okay, I'm here. So I was like, get me out.
Yeah.
All right, but the reason why we bring this up, and that was kind of random, but we're going to be doing an all-NBA NFL team. You heard that right. So me and Matt both came up with 5 players that we think could make pretty good NFL players, hypothetically speaking, I guess, but unless we truly do believe in some of our picks. But I thought this one was a little fun to do. It shows our versatility, being able to be a 2-sport broadcaster.
Absolutely.
And that's what we do on Ball Don't Lie. No team gets left behind, no sport gets left behind either, I guess. We've brought up Brock Osweiler.
Yeah.
We brought up the Baltimore Ravens. We just brought up the Packers. So now we're going to talk about some NBA footballers here. So, Matt, who is first on your list?
Well, I went with some all-time players and some current players. And my first player, this isn't even a homer pick. This is just an obvious one, Allen Iverson. Iverson was one of the best high school football players the state of Virginia has ever seen. He was an all-state quarterback, and right before Michael Vick was just as good at the safety position as well as returning kicks. Because of his size, as much as I'd love to see him juke out dudes as a QB, I think his best fit would be at free safety and punt returner. Big Devin Hester vibes from him.
Ooh, I like the Devin Hester comparison there. Yeah, that's a good one. I went with a little more current players, but now you struck a light bulb in my head, so I'm going to put an all-time guy.
Okay.
He's technically not playing anymore. He's going to make my list. I bumped somebody off. But,
okay.
So, yeah, I like that pick a lot. Like you said, Allen Iverson is he's really, I think people forget how athletic he was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's so fast. You could dunk on guys. Like, Allen Iverson was the truth.
You ever seen his high school highlight tape?
For football?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's freaking electric,
yes,
dude.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it took a Sixer fan to do it. But
Amen.
Another guy who I have on my list here, and he actually played Division I football, and you just sparked it for me here, Nate Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Where did he go to school?
Washington.
He played football
He
there?
was a DB there.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Small DB.
Yeah, well, he's 5'9", but Nate Robinson's, muscular.
Yeah.
The dude's, he's built. So he actually does have, the body if he wanted to play football. He was really good. We obviously know how athletic he is, a 3-time slam dunk champion. And to play DB, you have to be really athletic. I think he was trying to try out for the Seattle Seahawks, actually, a couple years back. And maybe they could actually use him because that secondary is pretty garbage. But God, Russell Wilson, I pray for him.
Yeah.
If that guy's win MVP, I don't know who will. But so I think Nate Robinson's a pretty interesting guy, and maybe he'd have a shot.
Yeah, that would be. I'd love to see him play football actually because he does have great ups.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he could get some pass deflections, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe some interceptions.
Slot corner.
Yeah. I could definitely see him as a slot corner.
Oh man. Yeah. I think that would be like a little like Desmond King action there. But all right, Matt. Who else made your list?
Shaquille O'Neal, the big diesel.
Oh man.
Imagine that man as a defensive lineman. The way he can move at his size should be illegal. He would destroy offensive lines and be the late 90s, early 2000s version of an Aaron Donald, just with a lot more personality. Maybe like a Warren Sapp, if you will.
Man, maybe that's a little too much personality. But oops. But
Oh, no.
yeah, Shaq's an interesting one. Yeah, we've never seen a guy that tall play football.
Yeah, I don't know if he could even fit into pads.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty interesting. But yeah, I think he tried playing football in high school, but his coach was like, "Yeah, no, it's not happening. I'm not willing to have you get hurt because
Right.
you're gonna be, an insanely good NBA player one
Mhm.
day." So yeah, I'm sure. Again, he's one of the most freak athletes in NBA history, and that's kind of a trend I went with a little bit on my list here. But a guy who I do think, if he really stuck to it, could have been a dominant defensive lineman is none other than Zion Williamson. A guy who I compared him to physically is actually Julius Peppers. They're about the same size and height,
Okay.
and they're both probably equally as athletic. And Julius Peppers actually did play basketball at UNC, and people said if he was a couple inches taller, he'd be in the NBA. But Zion Williamson, extremely athletic. He's already got the size to do it. I think he's a terror on the basketball court, and maybe could be a terror on the football field too.
Yeah, that'd be kind of a scary sight to see, wouldn't it? As
Yeah.
like an edge rusher, I think I like that.
He probably could play D tackle if he
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, he could even
wanted.
play like a red zone tight end too.
Yeah, he's a freak athlete. And I think NFL, like I'd say out of all the major league sports, I think NFL has like the biggest like freak athletes.
Yeah.
Of like the four major sports
Right.
leagues, like size and speed, strength combination. I'd say the NFL has it. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
kind
probably between football and basketball.
Yeah. So Matt, who else made your list here?
I've got Vince Carter. This
Oh,
man
ooh.
would be an elite NFL wide receiver. He had great size and quickness. Not to mention he could outjump anybody. I would be terrified of this guy running a fade route in the red zone.
Yeah, Vince Carter, that's a good one. He is extremely athletic. One of the, I'd say maybe one. I'd actually say he's probably the best dunker I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Okay, you agree with that?
Yeah.
Some people think that's kind of a cold take, but I don't. I think he's that
Well,
good.
who else would it be?
I mean, you can argue like Jordan or Dominique Wilkins.
No, I still think Vince Carter's better.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, like, I think there is an argument to be made. But glad we're on the same page here. But yeah, that's a good pick. I didn't even think. But next on my list is a guy who could have played at UNC for the football team, and you may not even know who I'm going to name here, but Kai Ballman, who is a guard for the Golden State Warriors, got a scholarship coming out of high school to play wide receiver at UNC, which is a pretty solid football school. That's ACC. You are looking up who Kai Ballman is.
Yeah, I absolutely am.
Yes, he does not know. But he actually ended up playing basketball. He ended up playing basketball at Boston College. I only bring him up because he's a guy who legitimately, could have played Division I football. And I just remember that little nugget. And Matt is highly confused right now.
Kai Bowman, 2019-20 stats, 7.4 points per game. There you go.
Maybe he would have made for a better football player.
Maybe.
Perhaps. Maybe he chose the
How
wrong
tall
career.
is he?
I think he's
6'1", 187. That's kind of small, but I imagine he put on some weight for football.
I mean, yeah, you also have to imagine, too, that wide receivers aren't that big in the NFL. Like, Odell Beckham's 5'10".
Is he really?
He's not that tall.
Oh my God, now I
Antonio
gotta look
Brown's
that up.
5'10".
Well-
Tyreek Hill's 5'8".
Oh, yeah.
NFL receivers are not as big as you think. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
Odell
muscular.
Beckham's 5'11". I didn't know that.
5'11",
I thought
alright.
I would have guessed 6'2".
Yeah, no, wide receivers are not as big as people think they are. In terms of height, but obviously athleticism and strength is a completely different story. But yeah, so Kai Ballman actually at 6'1" is a pretty nice size receiver.
Yeah.
He'd probably be a little bigger if he were to play football. But
Mhm.
I only brought him up because I knew that he got a scholarship from UNC coming out of high school.
Yeah,
And
I don't know. I
he
don't
committed
know
there. He was gonna play football, but I guess basketball won him over.
Yeah, I guess if I was between basketball and football, if I was equally good at both sports, I think I'd probably pick basketball just because I think you could play basketball for longer. And it would definitely not destroy you the way football would health-wise. So, yeah.
Your brain would not be spaghetti when you're done playing.
Yeah, I just watched the movie Concussion yesterday, too.
Oh, God,
with Will Smith.
That's...
That really opened my eyes.
Yeah, I remember I did a whole, paper, in high school about, concussions and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm glad I don't play football. But... Anyways, though, that was number 3 on my list. Who was number 4 on your list?
All right, so I'm going back to the current players. I'm going to go with Chris Paul. This might be a shocking one for you.
Really?
Yeah.
I am shocked.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good of a football player he would be. I've never seen him do it. But I think his IQ alone would make him a great quarterback. Then factor in his great passing ability on the basketball court. Maybe he could do that with a football. And always being able to find the open guy while never turning the ball over, which sounds like the ideal quarterback if you factor out the fact that he's only 6'1".
Man, I guess if you're bringing basketball into it, that's an interesting pick. I would have never have guessed that you would have had Chris Paul, especially after the debate we had last
listen,
week.
I don't hate Chris Paul.
Yeah, you don't hate Chris Paul.
I just hate that logic of the Knicks trading for him.
All right then. Well, we'll see who's right on that one. But okay, a guy who I have on my list is a point guard as well. But a guy who's definitely a lot bigger and more athletic in size, and that is Russell Westbrook. I mean, you're telling me, he's almost built like a football player to begin with, and he's so athletic and explosive. I feel like he's one of those guys that would love to get hit and, take contact. He wouldn't be afraid of it.
Just embrace it.
He's very aggressive, obviously, on the basketball court, and you can't be a sissy out there on the football field either. So I think Russell Westbrook has a mentality. I don't really know if he ever played football, but I just think he's such a freak athlete that he can legitimately play different sports.
He was the 5th guy on my list.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So for as much as I can't stand the way he's played the game of basketball over the last couple of seasons, you can't deny how fun this guy would be as a running back. You know the way he can run on a fast break and emphatically dunk. Now imagine him bursting through a hole and juking defenders. Sign me up.
Yeah. All right. So we actually did have a similar one, or we got one.
Yeah.
The last guy on my list, and I'm surprised you didn't name him because, for one, he broke every single record when he actually played football in the state of Ohio, and he's always toyed around that he was going to play for the Cowboys one day. That's LeBron James.
I thought that was too obvious of one. I was going to let you have it.
Yeah, I guess you let me have that one. I let you have Allen Iverson. But
oh, come on.
But in all honesty though, LeBron James, he is one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen. He can pretty much play whatever sport he wants.
Yeah, I think no matter what LeBron's decided to do, he probably would have been great at it. You could put LeBron in some skates, dude. He would dominate the NHL.
Probably. Probably. Do you want to hear who I actually had on my list, though, before I replace him with Nate Robinson? J.R. Smith. He apparently was so, and we know how confident he is as a basketball player.
Right.
Sometimes too confident. He said himself that he was a better football player in high school than he was a basketball player.
So then that makes me question why he picked basketball, just because of the health reasons then, I guess?
And maybe just like basketball more.
Yeah.
Also, he went straight out of high school.
Oh,
You'd have to go through college.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was a star at Lakeland High School in New Jersey. He apparently was insanely good. He was a wide receiver. Apparently, he was that good that he. Yeah. I don't know if he said he easily could have played Division I football.
Yeah, that seems like a lot more like J.R. Smith not wanting to go to school anymore.
Yeah, probably
than being better.
But I just thought it was an interesting point too. People forget because obviously he's a lot older now. J.R. Smith is insanely athletic back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely had the athleticism to play receiver. I mean, he's 6'4", 6'5". He's pretty built too. He maybe could have been a problem. I don't know.
Yeah, in his early years with the Nuggets and Knicks too, he was pretty good at dunking.
Yeah.
So he could definitely jump out the gym. I could definitely see him as a really really popular diva wide receiver.
Yeah. It's basically the next Odell or Antonio Brown, or Michael Thomas. But yeah, that's all of them. But anyway, though, that was a pretty fun one. I was excited that we did that one. I think both of our lists were pretty interesting. We had a lot of variety on it. So that's going to wrap it up here on Ball Don't Lie. We appreciate you listening in. Still a lot of stuff going on, even a Woj Bomb during our podcast, finally. And it was an exciting one, too. So appreciate you all tuning in, and be sure to catch us next week.
Daryl Morrow, baby.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.